arrive in this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing, and what happens in between is really important. And you know, you can't take it all. You can't take it with you.
Cockpit sessions, it's about what makes you tick, and no, I think we'd love to learn everything about you. Your history as a rugby player is immense. World Cup winner, 7s and 15s. Was it 86 caps?
Something like that.
I bet you wish you had some more.
I certainly did. I was very happy to have earned 1 or 2 caps, to be honest with you. You know, with an Italian surname like Dallaglio, I could have played rugby for Italy.
Ever tempted?
Yes, I was. I mean, they weren't very good. They're still not very good, but I could have played for Ireland, Dallaglio. But no, I was born in England and always felt very English in terms of my upbringing. So delighted to finally get the opportunity to play for England, and you know, thought it might last 1 or 2 games and ended up lasting about 13 years. So
what an amazing career there. But yeah, take us back to the start, and we'll put it into sort of aircraft terminology. You're at the departure gate, early days, as a kid. How did you get into it?
Well, I mean, I was always quite drawn to playing sport, you know, but I don't think rugby was necessarily the you know, at the head of that. I was, you know, into football, cricket, athletics, PE, whatever it might be. There was always trying to do as many sports as possible, really. And I enjoyed rugby, but I was by no means excelling particularly. I mean, it's always one of those sports that, you know, you rarely get the opportunity at an early age to touch the ball, and you sort of think to yourself, you know, what's this sport all about, really? And it tends to favour those guys who are a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. But I sort of really started. I started at the age of 8, played locally at a junior rugby club, and then played at school and all the way through school. But it started to get quite serious from the age of about 15 or 16, I suppose, which coincided with me growing from 5'8" to about 6'4".
That was lucky timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I played on the wing, and I played centre and fly half, and then slowly but surely, as I got bigger and bigger, I decided to sort of come to where the real action happens, up front with the forwards, really. So yeah, look, you know, it's been my life, but it wasn't meant to be. I played rugby as a hobby. I joined Wasps when I was pre-professional rugby. Yeah, joined Wasps. Trained on a Tuesday and a Thursday night. Loved it. Loved the camaraderie. Loved the vibe. You know, it was very much linked to my personal life, really. I lost my sister very tragically when I was 16.
That's the Marchioness.
Marchioness, yeah. And I was, you know, had a difficult time as one would expect for a couple of years. And I needed to find a purpose. I needed to find a support system, a family. And I found it in rugby, quite honestly. I joined Wasps. And from the moment I walked in the rugby club, it gave me it put its arms around me. It gave me a sense of belonging, of friendship, of family, and really never looked back. And I think my career was probably shaped by that particular moment, because I became very driven, and driven to honour the memory of my sister, driven to.
Was that part of it?
Yeah, very much so. It was very much a human expression, really. You know, rugby became a metaphor for my life, really. You know, it was about wanting to find a bit of comfort myself. It was about wanting to try and help my parents, really, to have something every Saturday or Sunday that they could look forward to and bring them closer together. So yeah, I was always very much driven by the head and the heart. You know, I mean, obviously it's a very technical sport. I was never really a massive studier or student of the game. I mean, I knew the laws, a few of them anyway, and I studied, you know, how to become a better player. But actually, I was driven by what goes on in your head. And
were you sort of Johnny Wilkinson going off and practicing every evening after the training?
Well, I mean, I practiced and I got better and I worked at my game. But also, I was fascinated by the power of the human spirit and the power of the mind, and about how you can connect the head and the heart, really. I mean, you know, as I said, it's very technical sport, but it's about emotion, it's about energy, and it's about wearing your heart on your sleeve, but also being able to connect the head and the heart together to try and produce the sort of performances that are required, really.
You always looked like that on the field. You had that sort of very steely look in your eye.
Yeah.
That I mean, it was a Goliath battle out there, wasn't it?
Well, rugby's it's quite. I mean, it is a very physical battle. I mean, it's not quite like going to war, but nobody loses their life. But it's a serious business. I would imagine if you're a soldier and you go into battle, if someone doesn't do their job, then that's the difference between getting back on the helicopter or not getting back on the helicopter. It's quite simple as that. In rugby, that's not quite the case. As I said, nobody dies, but equally, you do get hurt. So it is about giving it that level of importance, really, and being very conscious that you're in this thing together. It's a real battle, and that and I used to approach it in that way. To try and bring out the best in myself, but also bring out the best in those around me. And I've been through all sorts of highs and lows in my life, on and off the field. But I think in sport, particularly, and in rugby, and mainly in life as well, the most important thing about winning and being successful is believing that you can win. And for whatever reason, from my upbringing, I was given unconditional love and support from my family, which is the greatest gift you can ever give your children. But also, I was given a belief system that you can go out and really conquer the world and be very positive. And I think I always used to take that forward onto the field, that I would respect my opponent, I would respect everything about them, but equally I believed that myself and the team I was playing for were capable of winning, and were 9 times out of 10 going to win, because if you're going to choose to do something, you want to do it well. There's no point in doing it badly, and if you're going to choose rugby, then you have to do it well, because you don't choose it because you get well paid. You don't choose it because you become better looking as you play the game more. You choose it because it's a wonderful sport, but equally it's a very tough sport if it's not going well.
Talk about your lows in your career, though.
Well, I think we all go through setbacks, disappointments, and in careers. But life is like that. We all have bumps in the road throughout our private lives, our personal lives, are all intertwined, really, and they're inevitable. You don't expect them very early on in your career or your life. They tend to come later on, hopefully, but sometimes they don't. And for me, I had a very seismic bump in the road when I lost my sister aged 6. I was 16. So I think that's obviously a difficult thing to deal with. But what it does do is it prepares you for later on in life. Relative to that, there's you've got to keep things in perspective, really. And look, when you're professional, you have moments in your career where things are going really well and it's all very exciting, and there's lots of fun and laughter. And inevitably, you have moments where things aren't going so well, and how you deal with those and how you move forward and tackle them is really important. They might be injuries, and I had 1 or 2 of those. Quite serious ones where there's a bit of doubt as to whether things will work out. Loss of form. Selection sometimes doesn't always go your way. But I mean, the honest person looks in the mirror and tries to put their own house in order and works even harder, really, and makes things better, and asks the question, well, it might just be me. You know what I mean? So
how can I sort it out?
How can I sort it out? That's the first place to start, and then and just to keep being true to your values and keep working hard, and then things generally work out for you. But it's as you said, there is this it's this roller coaster of life, and your professional career in sport is no different. The highs are incredibly high, and the lows can be devastatingly low. It's not an x-axis, you know what I mean? It's very much about peaks and troughs, and I guess what you have to do is try and keep perspective, not let yourself get too carried away with the successes, and equally not get yourself too down when things aren't going your way.
Which is always easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think going back to your sister, and obviously with Nick and our father dying at a young age, I think it does change your perspective on life.
Of course.
And those highs and lows, I think it puts everything in perspective.
Yeah.
Not always in an easy way, but
No.
but spurs you on. And I think that's that there's a big part from that. Current England setup, what's your view on that?
Well, I mean, the current England setup is immense. It's changed, obviously, immeasurably since I played, which was a long, long time ago now. But, you know, things move forward all the time. You know, we had an era that was special, that was full of amazing people, both on and off the field. And I look back on that with an enormous sense of pride. But I don't try and compare my era that I played in to the era that exists now. You know, they're very different. They're very... you know, the whole game has moved on in terms of the laws, the technology, etc. So I think the most important thing is that when you play for your country, whether it's England or any other country, you represent the hopes, dreams and aspirations of millions of people. Now that doesn't matter whether you played 30 years ago or now, that still rings true. And I think your responsibility is huge. And it's a daunting job, but it's a job that's very exciting. It comes with some wonderful rewards, and your job as a player is to ensure that that you understand the history and heritage of what you're getting involved in, and you move it forward and you take it on and you leave it in a better place than when you started. And that's what you want to write your own name in history. You don't want to look back and say, well, you want to know what happened in the past, but also you want to write a new chapter. And I think what's exciting for this generation is that they're all at different stages of their career, but they've also got the opportunity to write new chapters, both individually and as a group. And
do you think they've got it?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think it's their opportunity to write their own chapter, to do something very, very special. It's an interesting Six Nations for a number of reasons. We're 18 months away from the World Cup. There's an evolution in this England team which is starting to happen. It's probably not quite as further ahead as Ireland or France. I mean, I'd like to have seen a few changes a bit earlier in the cycle, but we are where we are. So England had a very disappointing campaign in the last year. They finished 5th. They lost to all the home unions. So hopefully the players have had a good, honest chat with each other and reminded themselves that there's a little bit more responsibility this year to put some pride back in the shirt, to remind the public and themselves that actually how good a side they are. And to win, not every game, but certainly to give it a go. And inevitably it's all about getting off to a fast start. So hopefully, if they can win that first game, then everything and anything is possible. So I'm as excited about this tournament as if I was playing myself.
And there's almost anyone could win, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could. I mean, it's I don't think the autumn international series that we all witnessed. I don't think I've ever seen all of the Northern Hemisphere sides playing so well. Normally it's one or the other, but I think right across the board, several teams, France, Ireland beat the All Blacks, England, Scotland, Wales managed to beat Australia, England beat South Africa. So I think they all go into this tournament with a bit of a point to prove, but they're all in good form as well. We've got crowds back in the stadiums, full stadiums for the first time since 2019, which makes such a difference. To have the soundtrack of and the anthems back and everything is just huge to the sport of rugby and to the country itself. So I think that makes it even more exciting. And obviously with the World Cup in France in 2023, only 18 months away. In all the teams, there's one or two new faces. Still one or two, thankfully, older faces as well.
Who are you looking out for? New faces?
Well, I mean, for England, obviously the future is now Marcus Smith, and very much the present. You could pick one or two players from any side, whether Lewis Rees-Zammit from Wales, whether it's a Caelan Doris from Ireland, or Keenan the fullback, or Dupont the World Player of the Year. There's so many, Finn Russell. There's so many different players.
And then outside rugby as well, you're busy with your own business interests.
Yeah, I mean, I was always very drawn to the world of business. And no, I'm involved in a number of different businesses. I'm involved in broadcasting. I have an involvement with WAS, the club that I played with for 20 years, and I'm very passionate about giving back. I believe with success in any walk of life comes responsibility. And
with your charity.
And I set up Dallaglio Rugby Works, which works with young disadvantaged kids, those who are perhaps disengaged with education, as I was at one point in my life, and use the values and power of rugby to really turn their lives around. So we work with 14 to 17-year-old boys and girls all over the country, and really give them a support system, a belief system, to help them to achieve positive and productive futures, really. And with an incredible success rate, rugby's got an amazing ability to hook young people in, as it did with me.
And
you
you're
know?
part of a team, aren't you? It's
Yeah, very much so. And it's about the same things: respect and sportsmanship and teamwork and discipline and all the things that are important in life. Are very relevant to rugby and very relevant to these young people. So that's something that I have set up over 10 years ago. I'm very passionate about. And listen, you know, we can guarantee two things in our life: we arrive in this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing. And what happens in between is really important. And you know, you can't take it all. You can't take it with you. You know, as my mother used to say, there's no pockets in the coffin. So you know, I think that there is an inequality gap that exists, particularly in this country, which has grown even bigger in the last 2 years because of lots of things, COVID and mental health and many other issues. And I think it's our responsibility as individuals and as people to make sure that we close that gap and make sure that young people have equal opportunity in life. So that's something I'm passionate about and very, very excited with.
Oh, well, I think everyone should look up your charity, and I think, we support Jet here. John Higgins Trust, the same, disadvantaged children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you came up with an amazing stat about the number of people in prisons.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, 14 young people a day are excluded from mainstream education, which in itself is an indictment of the system. But equally, 65% of the prison population in the United Kingdom have been excluded from mainstream schools at some point in their careers, which is a worry because 6.5 out of 10 people in prison have been excluded. So. And with 14 exclusions a day, what that tells you is that they become a sort of a part of society that people have chosen to forget. And actually, no young person's born bad. We're all born into different circumstances. And I often say to myself, if I was 14 again, would I, and I found myself in quite a chaotic situation, would I want someone to come in and help me? And the answer is, yeah, well, of course I would. So that's really the motivation behind it. To give people that support system, to give people that belief system that I was lucky enough to be given myself, and then good things start to happen.
Mm. Well, amazing stuff. Coming to the end of the interview, obviously we're in our British Airways plane, just about to head off.
Yeah.
So where would your ideal destination be?
Oh, that's a tough choice, isn't it? Really. I mean, I feel very drawn to Italy, to be honest with you. I mean, you can fly anywhere in the world these days, but. I spent my father's first generation Italian. I grew up there in parts. I got married there. I'd probably go straight back to Lake Como, something like that, to just to start with. Yeah, might have trouble landing somewhere, but we'd be okay. So no, I mean, listen, I'm very drawn to Italy, really.
And if you're sitting on your seat, apart from family, who do you want to sit next to? In history or current?
That's a very good question, isn't it, really? I mean, I feel like I've sat next to quite a few good people already in my life, really. Both, on the...
who's the most fascinating person you've sat next to?
I mean, I tell you, I was lucky enough to be with the cricket guys. Viv Richards was always a really... was a hero. Both of mine, very intelligent man, very, very humble, very polite. And just a wonderful human being.
That's always nice to hear.
Yeah, he'd be a great guy. Knows his rugby as well, to be honest with you. So
right, let's give Viv out. But, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming to Henley and having a chat and supporting us.
No, thank you very much indeed.
Let's hope for a great Six Nations.
Indeed.